Welcome back. In order to do this, I had to find a shady spot, and in back of the woodshed, here we are. I am going to go on a comment that I had a while back on. It wasn't on a video. It was something that someone thought I should talk about how I store my cabbage short term. Now, what I do, because I live without refrigeration, I have a cooler where I have to keep supplying it with ice. So when it's 90, 95, ice doesn't last very long, right? So it's rather warm. I could store my cabbage under my house. I could. It's not cool enough this time of year. And there's always the root cellar. There's always canning the cabbage up. There's always, I don't have an option to freeze cabbage, but cabbage freezes pretty good. You cook it. I haven't tried freezing it raw. I don't know if you can or not. That's something you're going to have to research on your end. But I've always boiled the cabbage and froze it until I moved here because I have no freezer, right? The only freezer I've got is in the winter on the north side of my house, in a cooler on the deck. That's my freezer. In the summer, spring, and early fall, my refrigeration is basically a cooler with ice. So you can imagine only stuff that has to go in a cooler goes in a cooler. How do I store my cabbage? Well, any cabbage that I plant early in the season, I eat up or I can it. Now, they say cabbage isn't good canned. Yeah, it is, folks. It is. They say it turns mushy. Well, what I do here is grab an oak leaf or a grape leaf or two or three, put it on the bottom of the jar, put your cabbage in there, put one on top of the jar, add your water that way. The oak leaf, the grape leaves has enough tannin in it so it keeps the cabbage crispy. Now you could also do it with a tea bag. That's how my sister Barb does hers. She uses a tea bag. So I told her about the oak leaves, the grape leaves, and I said anything with tannin, I said including the tea bag. So she tried the oak. She liked it. She didn't try the grape, I do not believe. But she's just going strictly with tea bag. But anyway, when I plant my second crop of cabbage, I do it so it comes off later in the season because cabbage can take a lot of cold. What I do is I go up to my cabbage row and I pull the cabbage, root and all, the whole plant. You pull the whole plant. Where you pull that plant out of, make that hole deeper and wider. And then what you do is you take your cabbage head and you flip it upside down so you're holding it by the root stock. So you dig a hole that will hold the whole cabbage head, and you take that cabbage and you flip it upside down, holding the root stock, the stem. You put it in the ground upside down. Then you cover it with dirt. On top of the dirt, you cover the whole cabbage with dirt. And you take leaves, some kind of mulch, whether it's hay or straw, and then you mound it really good over the cabbage head. That will ensure a few things. That will ensure that it stays cool. It'll retain the moisture because the dirt is going to be damp. And then you're covering it so it's protecting it from any late season hot days. It'll protect it from the cold. Now, if we get a cold snap before we get snow, you might check your cabbage. I'm talking about a prolonged cold snap before the snow is on the ground. If we get snow on the ground, it's going to help insulate that cabbage. And you can go out 2 or 3 months later and 4 months later, dig down through the snow and harvest that cabbage. And you're going to be surprised how well it's keeping. Basically, you're creating a root cellar right in your garden. So that has worked very well to prolong my cabbage season. And I don't do this anymore. I used to plant a whole row of cabbage, a long row of cabbage, and then struggle to process it into jars or whatnot. So now I just plant some for fresh eating throughout the summer, and then I plant 4, 5, 6 heads in the later part of the latter part of the growing season, bury them in the ground. Then if I want a cabbage, I'll go out, move the snow aside, move the mulch aside, take that cabbage root that's sticking out of the ground, right? Gives a good handle, and pull it out. Now, a regular cabbage, the leaves go out like this when it's straight up and down, right? As it's growing. You don't want to do that because the dirt and the mulch will get down in between the outer leaves and the inner leaves. So you turn it upside down. All that is the dirt is being shed. The dirt is being shed by the outer leaves, which now are doing this instead of this. So upside down, leave the handle out, cover it with dirt, mulch it really good, and then go back a few months later, remove the snow, pull the cabbage out of the ground, and then eat the cabbage. So that's what I do here. I found 2 or 3 ticks on my back already this morning, right? I went through the brush. So now I just feel like the heebie-jeebies. But that's how I store my cabbage. So if you've got any more questions like that, see, I live this lifestyle, so I don't know what you folks don't already know. And I don't even think of it because I do it automatically, that I just don't think that others might be interested in knowing.